Welcome back to Redesigned Rose. If you are new here, my name is Jen. In today's tutorial, I am going to walk you through how to make this gorgeous, large, dense Sunburst Granny Square Blanket. This is a modern take on the traditional Sunburst Granny Square, but I have modified the pattern to make this a bit bigger and a lot more dense so that there are less holes. I do have a tutorial out currently, just released a few weeks ago, that teaches this pattern, but I did reach out and ask if you all wanted me to do another tutorial showing the color change version of this, and I am so happy to say it is here. I'm actually going to walk you through two ways to do the color changes. And this becomes very, very important because if you know me and you know my channel, you know that I love to make my blankets a lot larger than the traditional throw size. If at least two people can't snuggle under a blanket, it's just not big enough for me. So this pattern does require 80 of these granny squares, and 80 is a lot, but we can help minimize the work after, because traditionally, if we do the color changes just by adding a new color, we end up with all of these tails. And if you multiply this by 80, it's just a miserable amount of tails to weave in. So there's going to be two ways that I'm going to show you that when you're done making all of these gorgeous color changes, all the tails that you're going to have is your beginning tail and your final tail on each. So it really does become a time saver as we go. Now, before we get started with the tutorial, I wanted to show you the yarn that I've chosen and what you can do to completely make this your own, because I'm already falling in love with some variations. Now, this is the third blanket that I've made like this. The first two are each in a solid color. And then I moved over to this, which is the star of the show here. This is by Yarnspirations. It is a Red Heart Super Saver. The bitty stripes just means the colorway here, but the actual color is in the Rainbow Mist. Now, I do realize the Red Heart yarn does have kind of a reputation for being a bit more rough than some of the other acrylic yarns out there, but this particular one, the bitty stripes, does tend to be a little bit softer than some of their others that are solid. But I will tell you that after a steam block or even a wash, this softens right up just like the other acrylics. I cannot feel a difference because I did use a corresponding brand of yarn, and it really does blend just nicely. Now, for my blanket, I wanted a coordinating color to kind of stand out, and I was pulling from the blues in this yarn. And so I did go with the Loops and Threads. This is in the Soft Classic, and this is in the color Cornflower, which I'll show on here. There it is. And of course the white, which is going to finish the border and also do this nice braid join that I'll show you how to do. And just a really simple modern border to go around. Now, there are so many options because of all of the beautiful colors in here. As I showed you in the beginning, I'm really enjoying this pink. This is also by Loops and Threads, and this is in the color Blush. And I really think that this pink, let's see, I have another one here, along with this yarn is just really sweet. So this would be perfect for maybe a little girl's room or a little girl's nursery. So you could choose a pink as a coordinating color. In this one here in the center, I pulled from this one being their mustard color. And I don't have an example of one yet, but I also think that this green, this is actually in the color Sage. Now, this is a different type of yarn. This is in their Color Craft. It's also a worsted weight acrylic. I do like these because they do come in 812 yard skeins. So the first solid color blanket I made in the color Linen, I ended up using 5 of these, and in my solid color, in the 354 yard skeins, I ended up using 11 for each of these blankets. So that is going to be the tricky part because I am doing color changes. I would love to tell you that this project is great for yarn scraps, but if you have enough yarn scraps to do a full blanket like this, then bless your heart, you're going to need 4,000 yards. So however you want to make your own color combinations, if you want to use this one as your main one like I did, and then choose a coordinating color and then a white, you're just going to definitely need everything to total 4,000 yards. And then of course you're going to need to keep an eye on your yarn. Your coordinating color is only going to need maybe 1 or 2 skeins, and then the rest is going to be the bitty stripes and the white. But again, the sky is the limit with these, just because it does offer so many colors, and you can accent yours with whatever you like, or you can simply do all bitty stripes where the entire sunburst itself, this entire sunburst right here, is just all of the bitty stripes with the white around. Same thing with this one here. And then as I was making the squares, all I did was come up with a few variations on where I wanted to place my colors. And again, it's 80 squares, so I made, I believe, 8 different variations, and then 10 of each of those variations. And that was kind of my day. As I was making this blanket, I went ahead and said, okay, for this particular square, I'm going to do white in the center, my blue for round 2, the bitty stripes for round 3 and 4, and then the white. And that was one of my variations, and I would make 10 of those squares that day. And then the next day I did all bitty stripes with the white around, and I made 10 of those the next day, and just kind of broke up my project like that. Then when you're joining them, you just want to be mindful, especially with your coordinating color, that you don't have 2 that are exactly the same right next to each other. And just kept it a little bit more random. I think that's what makes this so nice, and it keeps the eye drawn to all of those coordinating color squares. And so just real quickly, the only supplies that you're going to need, of course, is going to be your yarn with your corresponding colors, a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and we are using a 5.5mm crochet hook. Let's get started. So in today's tutorial, I am going to go ahead and use the bitty stripes, the white, and I am loving this pink. I feel a 4th blanket coming on, but I'm not ready to admit that to myself yet. Because I do have actually a couple of other blankets in the works that I can't wait to show you guys. So I'm going to try my best not to get distracted here. We're going to go ahead and start with the pink. And every single one of these squares do start with a magic circle. For those of you that are a little bit new, I'm going to walk you through how to do this. And basically what you want to do is have your tail in your right hand and your working yarn in your left. And what we're going to do is take this tail and wrap it around your fingers twice. That way you have 3 strands of yarn on your 2 fingers. You're going to have a little bit of tail left. You want to make sure you have enough to hang on to. It doesn't have to be too long. Take your crochet hook, and with the hook part facing down, you're going to go underneath the first 2 strands of yarn, and we're going to hook onto that 3rd one. And what you want to do is pull that to the right, and then we're going to kind of lift it up and twist. Okay? Now, the working yarn that we've got right over here, I like to take my finger and just hold it on the yarn onto the hook there so it doesn't slide off. But I'm going to go right underneath that working yarn and hook it and pull it through that little loop. And that is a chain 1, and what that does is secures this a bit, not completely, but then I can grab my magic circle and remove my left hand. So you're going to notice a circle with 2 strands, okay? And what we're going to do, I like to put a couple of fingers in here just to hold this, and then I'm going to chain 2 more times. There's 1 and there's 2. So I have a total of 3 chains, and the reason why we want that is our first stitches are going to be this tall. So we want to get our yarn up to that point so that nothing is slanted and being pulled down. Now for the first round, we are going to work 16 double crochet inside of this circle. And in order to do that, we're going to yarn over, put your hook inside of the circle, grab your yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and I've got 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2 more. So that is my very first double crochet. And as you can see, it's just as tall as my chain 3. So I'm going to do that again. Yarn over, inside the circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 more. Now I have 2 double crochet. I'll do that one more time. And as I get some stitches going, I do tend to hold my yarn a bit different. I don't have all my fingers in there. So I'm going to yarn over into the circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 more. So there is my chain, 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to continue this around. I'm going to have 16 double crochet. I'm not going to count this chain 3, and you'll see why. It's very, very important we end up with 16 double crochet in this first round, because it's going to build on the rest of the pattern. So I'm just going to continue around working those double crochet, and then I will meet right back up with you. Okay, so I now have my 16 double crochet along with my chain 3. This chain 3 is going to disappear when we close this circle. And in order to do that, I'm just going to take out my hook so I can show you this part. We do have these 2 strands here, and we need to figure out which one to pull on. Now I always know it is the strand that is connected to, let me point with this here. It's the strand that's connected to the bottom, but if you're ever unsure, because as you can see, they can get twisted, maybe your yarn's a little bulkier, if you take your tail right here and you pull on it, just ever so slightly, you will notice that that strand, the one that's connected to the bottom, is the one that pulled in tight. This one did not move. So that is the strand that we want to pull on, and I'm just going to go ahead and take it. And we're going to pull on this until that circle closes up quite a bit. Now we've created this big loop here. We need to get rid of that. And we also need to close this up further. So you're just going to take the tail here, and we're going to give that a good tug, nice and tight. And you can see the magic of that magic circle, where that closes up nice and tight. The tail disappears. So now all that's left is just the beginning tail of our yarn. So I'm going to put this back on my hook, and we'll go ahead and do a color change. Now I mentioned I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this. Now the first way that I'm going to do it is a little more effective when you're just changing skeins. But if you want something that is just super secure and never going to come out, I'm going to show you what I've learned is called a Russian join. And what we want to do is go ahead and pull out the last part of our last stitch. So this is our last double crochet, but I don't want to pull the entire stitch out. I just want to pull out the last part of it. Now I'm going to take my new yarn here, and I'm going to wrap this around my old yarn. Okay, and then I'm going to tie it down. And I want to tie it down nice and close here. Okay, now the thing is, you don't want to get confused where you're tying these 2 together like this. You don't want to do that. What we're doing is we're taking our yarn. Now I'm going to take my old color, and I'm going to make a loop around the old color here. Okay, so there's that loop, and then I'm going to put that tail through, and then I want to move my knot just as close as I can. Okay, and tie that down. Then what you can do is take the old yarn right here and the new yarn, and you just pull these two together. This is a knot that absolutely will not come undone, but it's interesting because you can pull it back apart. And I just like to tighten this down as much as I can. It's almost a form of a slip knot. Then what you do is take your scissors and you can trim off these tails just as close to the knot as you can possibly get, because these are not going to go anywhere. So trim off those tails. And again, that's not going anywhere. Then I'm going to put my hook in here, and I'm going to finish that double crochet. And here's this knot. It's going to hide right in between where we're going to slip stitch to join. And you can't see it. So now I'm going to work round 2, and after I finish round 2, I'll show you the second way to do the join. So for this round, I'm going to chain 1, and now we're going to work a round of puff stitches. Now in this same stitch that I just did a slip stitch into, I'm going to work my first puff stitch. And it's going to be really important not to skip this one, because again, we're going to need 16 puff stitches for this round. So to do a puff stitch, I'm going to yarn over, again, go in through that same space, pull up a loop, yarn over, we're going to go in there a second time and pull up a loop, yarn over and go in a third time and pull up the loop. And you'll end up with 7 loops on your hook. Yarn over, and you're going to pull through all of those loops, and then we'll chain 1 to secure, and that's the very first puff stitch. We'll do that again. I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to go in 1 time, 2 times, and 3 times. Yarn over, pull through all of the loops, and chain 1 to secure. And I'm just going to keep doing this all the way around, like I said, until we have a total of 16 puff stitches. So we're going to go into each and every stitch, making sure not to skip one and not to add one. And here comes that beautiful blue. It starts in as a speckle. I just absolutely love this colorway. It is, I've been looking for a while, and it's definitely at the very top of my list, if not the top. Okay, now what we want to do is make sure we've got 2 stitches left. If you're ever unsure, because sometimes this chain 1 and getting started on this first stitch can make you think that you don't need a puff in there, but we do. Because if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, remember we need a total of 16. So don't miss that last one, because this is definitely a pattern where stitch counts count and are very important. So let's go ahead and do another color change. I'm going to show you how I do it. I'm going to go ahead and snip off my yarn, and we'll go ahead and do a round of white. And so for this one, the next thing I would do is go ahead and slip stitch. And what I want to do is slip stitch to the chain 1 that I did to secure this very first puff stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook. Now I'm going to grab my new color of yarn, and I'm going to just lay it over my hook and pull this through to complete my slip stitch. Now it's a little loose, and that's okay. We're going to take these and tighten them down. Okay, so it's the tail of the old yarn and the tail of the new yarn. Just pull them down and do that. And what we're going to do now is chain 2. And then we're going to take these two tails and we're going to hold them towards the top of our work. And with our new yarn, this round 3 is going to be a round of bobble stitches. And these are fun because these are a group of incomplete double crochets. So you're gonna have to fight yourself not to complete your double crochets. And what we're gonna do is work in between each of the puff stitches here, okay? So I'm gonna yarn over, go in between and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, just like I'm gonna complete a double crochet, except I'm not gonna do that last part of it. Now I'm gonna yarn over and go in and pull up a loop, yarn over and just pull through 2. Now I've got my chain 2, my first incomplete double crochet and my second incomplete double crochet. Now in this cluster, we're going to do one more so that we have what looks like 4. In this cluster, this first chain 2 is going to count as your first incomplete double crochet. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through all of those and chain 1 to secure. And I do have my tails that I am working on crocheted right inside of there. And I'm going to do one more cluster before I show you how to get rid of these tails. So again, I'm going to lay it on the top and I'm going to go in between the next 2 puffs and we're going to work 4 incomplete double crochets. So I've now got 4 of those, but you'll notice with this cluster and the rest of them all the way around, you will end up having 5 loops on your hook. But just look at your structures. You want to have the 4 plus the loop from the chain 1 to secure the previous cluster. So we're going to yarn over, pull through all of those and chain 1 to secure. Now what we can do is take these 2 tails here and just tie them in a knot. I want to tie that nice and tight. So now we have crocheted over our tails and we're securing with a knot. And then we do want to trim as close as we can, but not right up on the knot like we did with the Russian join. And then what's going to happen is those 2 little tails are going to get tucked in between our stitches. So if we do the next puff, these are going to go away. So insert our hook and do 4 more incomplete double crochets. Yarn over, pull through all, and chain 1 to secure. So that is the 2 ways. I'm going to finish this round and I'll do a color change again, showing you the Russian join, and then I'll do one more round showing you again how I did this one. Because there are a total of the 4 rounds before we get to the border of the square. So I'll go ahead and finish this round and meet right back up with you. Now, one thing I do want to mention, because this pattern is so dense, you're going to notice on this round that this is going to want to start cupping and curling like this. Don't panic. When we do the 4th round, it's going to flatten everything out and keep it nice and flat. But you will have to just kind of deal with this cupping as you go along. But don't think you're doing something wrong. You're not. This was just the only way we could get this to be, again, so nice and dense and not have so many holes. So as you can see, this is cupping up quite a bit. Now I do crochet a bit on the tight side anyway, so that does contribute. Yours may not be cupping this much, but if you do unfold it, it will unfold, it just won't stay that way. Okay, so once again, we do want to end up with 16 of these bobble stitches, so make sure you do get in between those final 2. And if you ever need to, just double check and count those clusters to make sure you're on track. And so you will have a total of 16 of these. Now for the fourth round, we're actually going to double our stitch count from 16 to 32. And again, I promised you a color change, so we'll go ahead and snip off our yarn. And then I'm gonna go back to, let's see, the next round's gonna be, let's go back to the bitty stripes. We'll put some more color back in there. And we're gonna go ahead and do the Russian join. So to do that, I'm going to pull out my chain 1, and then I'm gonna pull out the join of all of these loops. And don't worry, I'm gonna make this a little bit easier. We won't have to worry about keeping this like this for long. Let's take the new yarn, and again, I'm going to wrap it around and tie it to itself onto my old yarn here, just as close as I can. Now I can go ahead and pull out the rest of this stitch because we're gonna need to just redo the whole thing, and that's okay. Now I can show you. So if you lay out, this is the new yarn, this is the old yarn. Now I can take this one and just make a loop around the old yarn and put that through the center, and you can tie it down. But basically what's going to happen is wherever you end up this knot, this one is going to slide up to it. So moving that knot down as close as you can is going to be very beneficial if you really want to place your knot in an inconspicuous spot. I had to move this down quite a bit just because I'm trying to show you the method of tying this on. Typically, I would just tie it closer to begin with, as you saw in that second round. All right, so then again, old yarn, new yarn, you can see the tails, and you just pull that nice and tight. And those will hug together. Then I'll give them a pull this way and a pull that way, just to tighten everything down. And then we get right up next to that knot and trim the tails off. And again, that is not going anywhere. Get rid of those tails. Okay, so now let's put our hook back in, and we need to redo this last bobble. Now what we're going to do is come over to the first bobble here, and I'm going to slip stitch into the very top where we did that chain 1 to join. But then for this next round, we're going to be working in between each of the bobbles. So I like to slip stitch over one more, and that's going to line up and keep our color nice and straight if we set ourselves up to go right in between instead of leaning this over to go in here, if that makes sense. Now this next round, what we're going to do is it's going to be bobble stitches again, but we're going to alternate a full bobble and what I call a half bobble. I don't know if it's a stitch out there or not, but it is one that I just created to, again, get that dense and increase our stitch count. So just like we did in the round prior, I'm going to chain 2, and I'll work my first bobble stitch with the 4 incomplete double crochets. And remember, the first one, that chain 2 is going to count. So we only have 4 loops on our hook for the first one. It's okay if you don't count it and you add another incomplete double crochet and don't count that. It's okay. All right, now what we're going to do, instead of jumping to the next one, we're going to go into the top of this bobble here, and we're going to work what I call an incomplete or a half bobble. Now it is a little bit tight, but don't worry, you can do it. Into that chain 1 space, we're going to work 2 incomplete double crochets. And then we're going to yarn over, pull through all, and chain 1 to secure. So this is our full bobble, this is our half bobble. And we're going to just keep alternating that all the way around so that we end up with 32 bobbles, whether they are full or half, at the end of this round. So there is a full, and again into the top of that chain 1 here, we're going to work a half. Is it just me? I am loving this blue and pink together. I think I'm going to have to make a 4th blanket. So I am just going to keep alternating these all the way around. And this will be the final round of the round shape of the sunburst. And the 5th round is going to be our border that's going to take this from a circle to a square. So be sure to keep watching for that. And as you can see, by working up this round, is already forcing this to lay flat. And as you keep going, you're going to notice that it's really going to force that down, and it's going to keep that flat shape for you. Okay, as we get to the end of the round, we want to make sure, obviously I'm going to work another bobble in between, but you also want to make sure that because when we started in between, that number 32 bobble is going to be that half one on the top here. So I really have a full and a half still to work. And again, you just want to make sure that you don't miss any of those, because it will, you want to be set up right for the border. And the pattern does work in between each of these bobbles. So right in here to the top, and this one can get a little extra tight, but it's not impossible. All right, isn't that gorgeous? So I'll show you again the color change that we did, where we crochet over the tail and then do the knot as we start. What we're going to end up doing, we've just finished the center, and now we're going to end up working this border. I did modify this border. It is different than the traditional Sunburst Granny Square, because I wanted to keep it at a minimum, because I really wanted the sunburst to take up more of the square than anything, because that is where all of the gorgeous color is. That's where the pattern, all of the shapes of all of these bursts. I just love this. So what we do here is, again, we're going to go in through that chain 1 where we secured this first bobble. Insert your hook, and then just take your new yarn and place it over your hook, and we're going to pull that through to complete our slip stitch. Now, doing the join this way, it is a lot easier to get your new color to be exactly where you want it. Sometimes with the Russian join, as you probably noticed on the round below, sometimes it can get a little tricky to get that knot right where you want it. So it's just going to be a preference for you in what you like and how you like to join your yarn. But I do find that this way is a little bit easier, to be honest. But again, you might like that Russian join just to feel a little more secure. Okay, so let's go ahead and start that border. What we're going to do is chain 4. And yep, you guessed it. That means that our stitches are going to be this tall, and that's the reason why we're going to do it. This first chain 4 does count as a stitch. And the first, or technically the second stitch we're going to work is a treble crochet. And again, what I want to do is have these tails that we've got with our old and new yarn, and I want to just kind of hold them with my work here. We're going to yarn over twice, and again, I'm going to go in between the bobbles here, and I'm going to work a treble crochet. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 more, yarn over, and pull through the last 2. And just so you know what we've done here, each one of our corner stitches is 2 treble crochet, a chain 2, and 2 treble crochet. But what we're doing is we're starting with half of it, and we're going to work our way around, and when we come back, we'll finish the other half of this corner. So I don't want you to get confused, just knowing that we're starting with half of our first corner. And it's just a cleaner way to do this. And it's a way I've always known to do it. All right, in the second spot, we're going to work 2 more treble crochet. So again, yarn over twice. We're going to go in between those bobbles, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 more, yarn over, pull through the last 2. And we'll do that one more time. And again, I've got those tails here right on top. Now what I'm going to do is tie those into a knot. I think we're going to tie those a little bit tighter just so that that knot hides nice and well underneath those 2 treble crochet we just did. But not too tight because we don't want to cinch that. And then we'll snip off the tails. Again, close, but not as close as the Russian join. And then we can kind of pull that over and hide that. That one worked out really well. So that is our color change. Now we're going to continue to work the rest of this side of the border. So in between the next 2 bobbles, this is what I refer to as space 1, space 2. In space 3, we're going to work first a double crochet. We're going to start to climb down in size, and then a half double crochet. We want our stitches to get smaller. In the next space, number 4, we're going to work 2 half double crochet. Space 5, 2 half double crochet. Space 6, also 2 half double crochet. I feel like this border is really easy to remember. Now we want to start to climb back up. In space 7, we're going to do the opposite of what we did over here. So first a half double crochet, then a double crochet. And then in our final space 8, we work 2 treble crochet. All right, so each one of the sides, now I'm going to work a corner, but each one of the sides is going to have 8 spaces, again for a total of 32, and that's how that works. So it's going to repeat the same. We're going to do a corner as space 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So now let's do space 1, which is a corner. This time we're working a full corner. So we're going to work 2 treble crochet into that same space, chain 2, and then 2 more treble crochet into the same space. And that is a full corner there. Okay, so that's gonna pull out that way. This one pull out that way. Now let's work our way across here. So space 2 is 2 treble crochet. I want to keep on that same height before we start to climb down in height on the next one. Space 3 is a double crochet, and then a half double crochet. And then spaces 4, 5, and 6 each have 2 half double crochet. There's 4. There's 5. Oops. And there is 6. And then space 7 is where we do the half double crochet and double crochet. Space 8 is 2 treble crochet. Now we're back to space 1 for a full corner. And remember, that's going to be 2 treble crochet, chain 2, and 2 more treble crochet, all in the same space. And so you can really start to see this working out. Okay, so space number 2, again, 2 treble crochet. Space 3 is going to be a double crochet and a half double crochet. And then spaces 4, 5, and 6 are each 2 half double crochet. Space 7 is going to be the half double and double. Space 8 is 2 treble. And now we're at space 1 for a corner. So 2 treble, chain 2, and 2 treble. Space 2 is 2 treble. Space 3 is going to be, the double crochet and half double crochet. Try to pull that apart. And then the next 3 spaces, 2 half double crochet each. Space 7, half double and double crochet. And so now, if you'll notice, we have space 8 where we're going to finish our 2 treble, and then we're going to come back over here where we started and finish this corner, because remember, the corners are all worked in the same space. So if you get back here and there's only 1 space left and you're panicking saying, wait, I'm not completely done, you did it right. So this is our space 8. And then we do 2 more treble into that very beginning space. And then chain 2. And then what we'll do is slip stitch to join at the very top of that first treble crochet. And snip off our yarn. Pull that out, and you are done with your granny square. And as you can see, we've only got the 2 tails to weave in after we join. So now I'm going to walk you through how to join your squares. Since I have 4 of these, I'll just make this a cute little doll blanket for one of my girls. What I like to do is have all of my beginning tails in the same space or the same location for each one of the squares. And we're going to join with the white. Move that up just a little bit for you. And what we want to do is start with a slip knot. I'm going to place this on my hook. I'm going to move these 2 out of the way, and we're going to grab those again in just a minute. So to get this really pretty, it kind of creates a top braid. It's it's very low, but it's raised, if that makes sense. It's not super prominent on the top, but it does raise up just a little bit. I think it's just a really, really pretty way to join. There are multiple ways to join yarn, or granny squares, excuse me, but this is the way I like for this blanket. All right, so if we go to our corners, I know that we did a chain 2 in between. So I want to go ahead and grab the outside loop. Actually, I'm going to show you with my needle here. So there's my chain 2, okay? And what I want to do is grab the outside loop. If I was going to grab the whole stitch, I would grab the front loop and back loop. But we're going to join by just grabbing the back loop of each one of these stitches, starting right there. So what I'll do is go ahead, sometimes I'll take my hook this way to grab it if it's a little difficult. And then I want to do the same thing on this side. So I want to grab the back loop of the second chain space. Then what we're going to do, make sure that your yarn, now it's a little hard with some of these tails here. There we go. So you want to make sure that the yarn that you're using is going right up the center of your two squares that you're joining. And what you're going to do is just pick that up on your hook, and you're going to pull it through both of those loops and then your slip knot. Now I'm going to go to the next stitch here, and I'm going to grab that back loop, and I'm going to come over here to the next stitch and grab that back loop. And now I'm going to hook my yarn and pull that through all three. Okay, now I'm going to go to the next one on each side, and I'm just going to continue doing this all the way up. And I do like to give it a little bit of a tug as I'm going up. And you will notice this becomes a bit of a quick way to join. You'll get a rhythm going. When you're first joining on back here, these want to flop around everywhere, and that's normal. Don't worry about it. As you start joining more squares, everything gets a bit more secure and stays in place a bit better. And again, you kind of get this back and forth rhythm. But of course, this is always more difficult to show on camera because I'm trying to make sure that you guys can see every little bit of what I'm doing here. So just grabbing each of those back loops, hook onto the yarn, and pull through all three. And you don't want this to be tight at all. If your yarn gets a little too loose, you can give that a little tug, but you want this to be a bit, you don't want it loose, but you don't want it tight. I hope that makes sense. You don't want these to flop around, but you don't want to make the structure of this cinch together. But as you can see, it's just really creating that pretty raised braid on top. And so what you'll do with your full-size blanket is you're gonna join two together, two together, two together. You're gonna keep going up this straight line until you have 10 rows. And then I will show you. And then what you're gonna end up doing is grabbing another square, and you're gonna add onto this side one more all the way up, and then you're gonna scoot over and add one more all the way up, so that you work all of your vertical rows first. Then we're gonna go back and work the horizontal rows, or completely turn the project and everything's vertical. but you're going to work one direction first and the second direction next. Okay, so we are at the corners here. So I want to make sure I stop at the first chain one space on each side. And then I know I am at the top. Got a little knot here. Now what I can do is join two more. And again, I put these tails in the same position. And so I still want to keep my yarn going right up the middle. And so I'm going to go over here to this corner. And again, I've got that chain two space. So I want to grab the chain on this side, not the chain on this side. So that's chain one, that's chain two. I want to grab this one. And sometimes if you're off on one or two stitches, this braid is also really forgiving. If you have to put in an extra one or skip one just to keep it on count and even, you can do that and nobody's ever going to tell. So don't overthink this part. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and hook that on and pull through all three. And this one I do tighten down a little bit just because I want all of the squares to sit up next to each other. You don't want a big space in between this join. My yarn split there. All right. And then I'm just going to continue working all the way up. So as you can see, it just becomes this little rock back and forth. So I'll finish this all the way up and then I'll meet right back up with you and we will do the join the other direction. Okay, so I'm on my last one here. So as you can see, we've joined all the way up. And then what you'll do is snip off your yarn. And I like to pull this through and make a knot. So that is nice and secure. Now we will turn our blanket this way and we're going to do the same thing and we're going to do a join in this direction. So I'm going to work that up on camera. I'll show you one more time just to make sure. And again, you're going to put on a new slip knot. And same thing, I want to have my yarn going up this way. And then I'm going to grab the back loops of those chain spaces and begin my join. And same thing that we did. And so you would do this again for each and every row. At this point, you won't be adding any more squares. Once you've done the first direction, all of your squares are on. Now you're just securing all of them in place from the other direction. Now, obviously these squares have not been blocked. I did talk about this a little bit in my other video. I did block all of my squares for my clay colored blanket, but the linen one I did not. To be honest, I really didn't notice a huge difference. There was a little bit of a difference, but not enough of one. So if you're somebody that wants to skip the blocking or maybe block the blanket when you're completely done, I just usually keep my squares on a pegboard. I don't know what they're called, but there's a board I'll show you with pegs that come up that can hold your granny squares, and just kind of helps at least keep their shape while you're working them up, and then joining them together. I'm a firm believer in blocking. I love how it just really gives you some final control and shape to your projects. But with this one, because of the join is so secure, it really takes care of your edges, and you don't see anything uneven. Okay, so as we get to the top here, you may have noticed while I was talking, I just took this slip knot where we began or ended our last square and just gave that a little tug. And then what we want to do, you just want to make sure you don't grab that tail instead of the back loop of your stitch. Then I like to get right up close. And because I can't go in that way, I'll go ahead and come up underneath. Then what's going to happen is this is going to set us up to have this braid go right over the top of this one without being too big. And then if we get nice and close on the other one, these are ones we've already gone in this direction, if that makes sense. This just gives an extra security. And then, like I said, it keeps this loop right here not much larger than these, being able to overlap and just really give a nice secure corner. So I'm going to finish going ahead and working the rest of this join up, and then I hope you stay with me to learn this cute border. I'm going to give you a few tips because you will notice as we work up the border, this does have a little bit of a scalloped edge. If you like that, the border can just be worked. Otherwise, I'm going to give you some tips on how to adjust some stitch sizes in here to make this just a little bit straighter. I'm going to do both versions of that for you when we come back. All right, so just finished my last one here. I'm going to go ahead and snip off the yarn. And once again, I like to just create that last little knot there. Now it is time to start the border, and you can pick any corner of the blanket that you like. Go ahead and start with another slip knot. Now in our corners, once again, we do have that chain 2. So I'm going to start at the top of one of these first treble crochets. And the first round of the border is very, very simple. We're just going to work a single crochet in each and every stitch, making an adjustment for our corners. So for this first one, in the very first corner, I'm going to do a single crochet. Again, just right across. And whether you like the scallop or not is not going to change for this round of the border. Right now, we just want to set ourselves up with a nice, clean single crochet all the way across and set up our corners so that we can get a nice square corner for each edge of the blanket. Now, when I do get to the first join, I will work 2 single crochet in that space. And then what I like to do is that extra little knot that I made, I go in through the center of that, work a single crochet, and then 2 more on this edge here, so that each one of these, I have 2, 1, and 2, so we have 5 stitches. It does create this little hole, but that is going to be carried through all of the corners. We will have those corner holes that are kind of the signature of the granny square, if you ask me. And then what I like to do is take this tail from our join, and I'll continue to work right on over that for a few more stitches. Just going right over the top here. And then I'll leave this out, and then I'm going to crochet over the top of this, going this direction on the next round. That way it gets a nice, good, secure hold inside all of the stitches. We won't have to worry about that coming loose. So that's also another way to eliminate some tails to weave in on your blanket at the end. All right, and once we get to a corner, what we want to do is make sure that we put in 3 single crochet into that very same space. And what we're going to do again is we're going to start setting up for our corner to make sure we get a nice sharp corner on each corner of the blanket. And then we start again, just going down the next side. Okay, so I'm at the next join here. So once again, I want to do 2 single crochet into that space. And I'm going to go into my knot that I created and single crochet right over the top of that. And then 2 more to the left of that. And just like we did with the other one, I'll take this tail and I'm going to single crochet right over the top of it for a few stitches. Go 1 more. And then I'll leave that out so we can single crochet over the top of it in this direction on the next round. So I'm going to finish this round of the border, and then I'm going to meet right back up with you. Okay, so when finish the first round of the single crochet of the border, and when I get to this corner, remember we started with just a single crochet here, so we want to end with 3 single crochet in the corner, just like we did for all of the others. And then what we're going to do is slip stitch to join to that very first single crochet that we did. So now each of our corners are set up. Now again, if you like the scallop, and my clay blanket that I did, I kept all of the scallop. I didn't make any adjustment for the stitches in here. For the linen blanket and for the color change, I did do some adjustments in here. I love it both ways. If you like this and it doesn't bother you, your second round of the border is all just going to be single crochet again. But if you do want to make a little bit of adjustment and fill in this gap a little bit, stay with me and I'm going to show you how to get that done. So we'll go ahead and again chain 1 and start with a single crochet right in that same space. And we're going to single crochet all the way over until we are closer to the join. And you'll do this, of course, for each and every join. And again, I wanted to keep this border nice and simple because I really wanted to keep the focus on these large sunbursts. They are just so pretty. They deserve all the attention. All right, so once we come to the join, which is the 2 single crochet, the join itself, and then the 2 single crochet that we did, that's where we're going to make our adjustment to get some height. And then I also want to be mindful because I'm going to pull this tail that we crocheted over in this direction, and I'm just going to hold it right across so I can crochet right over it in this direction. So the first stitch that we're going to do is going to be a half double crochet. We're just going to get that tail out of our way here. And then the next 3 are going to be double crochet. And again, I'm just picking up that tail, and don't worry about the tail being tight or not. We can make that adjustment in just a minute. And then we're going to do a half double crochet. Okay, so from our single crochets, we went to half double, 3 double, and a half double. Then we go right back to single crochet. keep doing that all the way until we get to that tail being completely covered. Okay, and then we can give this a bit of a tug and snip off the end. And so as you can see, this is giving us some more height, adds a little bit extra to the border, but it's going to give us a little bit more height to help straighten out the scallop so it's not quite so pronounced. Now I'm going to finish just my single crochets nice and quick and easy until I get to the corner. There's one more round to this border, so be sure to stay with me for that. Okay, so I'm at the point where I put 3 single crochets into this corner. This middle one is where we're going to put 3 more. Okay, so I want to do a single crochet into the first one, and then I'm going to do 3 into the next. Again, just to keep that corner going. And then 1 into the next. And you'll just start to see how that really builds our corner out nice and pretty. So we'll keep going single crochet all the way up to the next join. All right, so I am at the next join. I'm gonna grab my tail so that I can work over it. And the very first, remember I'm 2 away where I've done the 2 single crochets in the row below. So we're going to do half double crochet, double crochet, double crochet, 1 more double, and then a half double. And then we go right back to our single crochets. And again, I'll keep going until that tail is completely crocheted over. And I can flip this over. There's just a tiny bit left, and give that a little bit of a tug. And snip that off. So that has been completely woven in. And go right back to just single crochets all the way to the next corner. Okay, and now we're at the next corner. We have the 3 single crochets. So the first one is just 1 single crochet. The middle one is going to be 3 more. We always want to put 3 in a corner, and then 1 into the next. And you can see that's just really building out nicely. Let's give that nice clean corner. I'm going to go ahead and work up the rest of this round of the border, and then I'll meet right back up with you to show you the final round and icing on the cake as far as I'm concerned, and how to finish off your blanket. Okay, so I am coming up on the end of the second round of this border. And I've got the beginning tail in underneath, so I'm going to give that a little tug there, snip that off. And then again, I've already crocheted into the first of my 3, so I want to make sure I put 3 more into that middle stitch. And then 1 more into the final stitch. And then we're going to slip stitch to join with that first single crochet of the round. Okay, now it is time for the final 3rd round of this border. This just adds just a little something. It's a little stitch I was playing around with. I don't know if there is a name to it, but I was just kind of playing around with borders and stitches, and this is one I came up with. It's super easy, but again, it just adds a little bit extra. I kind of refer to it as a modified picot stitch because it will have some familiarity if you're familiar with that stitch. What we'll do is we're going to chain 1 and then single crochet into that very same space, then chain 2, then we're going to skip a stitch and single crochet into the next. Chain 2, skip a stitch and single crochet into the next. Chain 2, skip a space and single crochet into the next. And that is the repeat all the way around. There is no adjustments to be made. The tails have already been dealt with. We're not going to change height of any of our stitches. This is just one extra little step that's super easy and repetitive all the way around that just adds a cute little modern finishing touch to your blanket. And this also really helps balance those height adjustments that we made from the round below. As you can see, it just really finishes those off. It kind of hides the fact that we made those adjustments and just keeps a nice even border. It just adds, it's almost like a little ruffle to me. And just do this all the way around. And by skipping a stitch, it goes really quickly. And for the corners on this one, I actually don't make any adjustment for this. I just simply work it all the way around without adding any extra stitches for the corner. It just works because of that chain 2 space. Okay, so I am coming up around this last round of the border, and I'm going to go ahead and single crochet into that final space and then slip stitch to join. Go ahead and cast off. This has just turned out to be the cutest little lovey-sized blanket. I do have one quick favor to ask of you if you are still watching. If you would, if you're not already, if you would take just that quick moment, if you enjoyed this video, to like, comment, please subscribe. I am trying to grow my subscribers, and I would be truly grateful if you would take that moment to do it. It does allow me to move. I'm really trying to move in full time to bring you guys more tutorials. I have more ideas in my head than time on my hands that I am dying to share with you. But I am also going to commit, I think that sharing with you the 4 granny squares and a lovey sized blanket is going to be much better than just doing the small swatch that a lot of us have been used to here on YouTube to teach you, because it gives you just, it's a way to show an entire blanket on camera with you at this size. The last thing that you would need to do for your blanket, of course, is going to be to weave in your tails. And again, there's not going to be many. There's going to be likely just a couple per square. Remember, this is how it is if we don't do any of the joins or crochet over. So by the time you're done with your border and you've woven in the edge tails, you're just going to have these centers and the very center of your sunburst, of course. So it's going to be a lot easier. I did do an entire blanket with tails like this. It took forever. So I wanted to get a little smarter and share those tips with you so that you didn't have to go through that like I did. But again, I hope this was helpful for you. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial, and I look forward to seeing you more for some cozy projects just like this one.